Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Voices FCIAC Football Fast 5. Everything you need to know about Fairfield County High School football and the state playoffs, all in 5 minutes or less. I'm Eric Gendron. With me once again is former Stanford High School head football coach and agent for JL Sports, Kevin Jones. Kevin, we got the FCIAC Championship and some state playoffs to break down. You ready?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
With the exception of maybe the third quarter in the FCIAC Championship, Staples rolls over Greenwich and then blows away West Haven in the first round of the Class LL state playoffs. And they're one win away from returning to the championship game. Kevin, is this the best Staples team you have ever seen?
It's hard to answer that question. Are they the best team that I've ever seen at Staples? But they're pretty close to it if they aren't. They beat West Haven 42-20 the other night, and it was 35-0 at the half. So I went back to our crack staff reporter Tom Renner and I said, hey, what do you think the scores have been at halftime? What's the totals there? And we looked at it, and Staples has outscored their opponents 324-48 in the first half. They also have 35 touchdowns from 30 yards or more. This is as impressive a team as you're going to see at the high school level. Loads of experience. Guys been doing it for years, winning for years. Are they the best ever? Hard to answer that question, but I know this, they are pretty darn good.
All right, and on the other end of that spectrum, Greenwich has two pretty tough games in a row, runs into Staples and Xavier back-to-back, and has had quite a bit of trouble with both of those teams. Kevin, did Greenwich's fairly easy schedule this season hurt their chances in back-to-back games against the two teams that reached the state championship last year?
Yeah, you want to say no, but I think it did. And I saw Greenwich week one against Ridgefield, and I was very impressed. I said, wow, this is a team that can really surprise some people. But then as it turned out, Ridgefield maybe wasn't as good as we thought they were. And they only played two other teams with winning records. They beat McMahon and they lost to Staples. So the rest of their schedule, I looked it up, combined record was 20-41. And that hurts you because you get into these big games at the end of the year, the FCIAC Championship game, the first round of the playoffs. And in Double L, you're playing really good teams with a lot of players and they're loaded with talent. And man, if you haven't had some tests along the way, I think it hurts you. And I think that's what happened to Greenwich this year. Easy schedule, hurt them at the end.
But it'll get a little harder in 2013. Some good matchups next year, but we'll get to that in a couple weeks. All right, New Canaan once again comes alive in the postseason and will play Windsor in the semifinals for the second year in a row. It looks like this matchup is going to be even tougher this year for the Rams, though, Kevin. But will that Marinelli magic keep rolling back to the finals?
The Marinelli magic. Well, I don't know if there's such a thing as the Marinelli magic, but if there is, they're going to need it the rest of the way. They're the only road team in Class L to win a game on Tuesday night, and I think they got a good draw in Avon. It was a favorable matchup for them. Going forward, Windsor, Hand, these teams are much stronger than Avon. And like Greenwich, New Canaan played a very weak schedule. They lost to Trinity to start the season. They lost to Darien to end the season. And in between, they played 8 regular season games against teams that were combined 28-52. So again, just like Greenwich, is that going to hurt them in the playoffs? I think it just might. Tough game against Windsor this weekend.
All right, Trinity Catholic's dream season comes to a close with a tough loss to North Brantford in the Class S state tournament. Kevin, do you think this was a one-and-done deal for the Crusaders, or do you think they will stay a playoff contender going forward?
Well, it was a great story, and it came to a sad ending, and you wanted to see it keep going. But I think they'll look back on this season fondly, but it may take a little while for the sting of this loss to rub off. But I'm tempted to say they can do it again, but history's not on their side. Historically, this is not a team that's had success year after year after year. So the only way for me to change my answer is for them to prove it on the field next year. So if I'm a Trinity Catholic player, my butt's in the weight room today, and you got to get ready for next year. You're losing a lot of talent. It's going to be tough to repeat.
All right, and that'll bring us to our Daily Voice games of the week. The only two FCIAC teams still standing, Staples and New Canaan. Staples takes on NFA Sunday at 12:30 at West Haven. New Canaan takes on Windsor Sunday at 12:30 at Bunnell. Kevin, let's just break down these two playoff games here.
Well, I look at New Canaan Windsor, and last year was an unbelievable game where New Canaan wins in the final seconds. But I think I see this year a reverse of 2011 where whereas last year New Canaan had all the experience, this year Windsor has all the experience and New Canaan is the young team. This is a tough draw for New Canaan. Windsor's got, a big thing on their side right now, which is revenge. They lost that game last year. I'm sure they weren't too happy about it. They've got the experience and the athletes this year. New Canaan's a little bit banged up from that Avon game. I really see this as being a very, very tough win for New Canaan We'll find out this weekend. Staples and NFA. This game, obviously, I'm going to pick Staples in this game. To me, they are the best team in the state. If you look at NFA, though, we saw them first against Stanford. They had a very athletic quarterback. They use a ton of formations. They're a good football team. There's no question about it. They got suspended for running up the score on Stanford earlier in the year. But I really think that the depth, execution, the experience of Staples is going to be too much for NFA to handle. And without question, I think Staples goes on to the state championship.
All right, that'll do it for another week of Fairfield County High School football. Come back next week. Hopefully we'll have a state championship preview for you, but if both teams lose, it'll be our season finale. Let's hope we keep it rolling. Until next time, I'm Eric Gendron.